The invitation was rendered on heavy, cream-colored cardstock, its edges sharp and gold-embossed. It was a formal summons to the 1979 Music Industry Humanitarian Awards, a night where the elite gathered in black tie attire. Bob Marley held the card, his eyes tracing the elegant script for the third time. He was the guest of honor, recognized for his relentless charity work across the fractured landscape of Jamaica. But as he stood before the storied entrance of the Beverly Hills Hotel on the night of September 21st, he was about to learn a brutal lesson. In the glitter of Hollywood, humanity is often measured by the length of a man's hair rather than the depth of his soul. The Crystal Ballroom was a fortress of wealth and power. By 7:30 p.m., the air was thick with the scent of expensive perfume and exhaust from idling limousines. Music executives and global icons stepped onto the red carpet, greeted by a rhythmic strobe of camera flashes. Amidst this sea of tuxedos and silk gowns, Bob Marley approached. He wore a tailored black suit and a pressed white shirt, his dreadlocks gathered neatly behind his head. He carried himself with the quiet, gravitational pull of a man who had seen war and peace. Yet he remained an outsider in this zip code of artificial perfection. At the threshold stood Gerald Morrison, the hotel's head of guest relations. Morrison was a man defined by gatekeeping. He had spent over a decade ensuring that only the right people crossed into his pristine world. To Morrison, excellence was synonymous with conformity. As Bob neared the entrance, Morrison didn't see a legend or a humanitarian. He saw a disruption. He stepped forward, physically blocking the path. He told Bob the event was private. Bob, unfazed, offered the gold invitation. But Morrison didn't even look at the paper. He looked at the man and saw a violation of his standards. The air grew cold as Morrison declared that Bob was not appropriately dressed. Bob gestured to his black tie and suit, but the suit wasn't the issue. Morrison's voice turned sharp and condescending, informing the reggae icon that the gala required proper grooming standards. The implication was heavy and unmistakable. When Bob asked if the problem was his hair, Morrison confirmed it, stating the style wasn't suitable for their clientele. The tension began to radiate outward, drawing the attention of guests who were now slowing down to witness the standoff. A small crowd began to gather, and the silence of the evening was replaced by the low hum of whispers. Behind the velvet rope, people began reaching for their phones, sensing a disaster in the making. Bob remained remarkably calm, identifying himself and his role as an honoree. But Morrison was unmoved by the name. He was anchored in his prejudice, insisting that his policy demanded conventionally styled hair. A woman in the crowd gasped in disbelief, but Morrison held his ground. He was convinced that dreadlocks were a sign of something unclean, something that didn't belong in a room full of power. Morrison's bias began to leak out in the form of accusations about lifestyle and anti-establishment attitudes. He saw the hair and assumed the worst: drugs, rebellion, and a lack of culture. Stories like this are rarely told in full, which is why Marley Files exists to document the friction between legend and reality. Bob didn't shout. Instead, he began to dismantle Morrison's worldview with a quiet intensity. He spoke of his daily rituals: meditation at dawn, a clean diet, a life devoid of alcohol and hard drugs. He explained that his hair was a religious covenant, a symbol of his faith as sacred as any cross or yarmulke. The crowd went silent. This was no longer a dispute over a dress code. It was a public dissection of systemic prejudice. Bob shifted the focus from his hair to his work. He spoke of the schools he had funded, the hungry children he had fed, and the medical clinics he had established in the most forgotten corners of Jamaica. He asked Morrison how a building dedicated to celebrating humanitarianism could deny entry to the very person performing the labor. It was a direct hit to the hotel's hollow sense of prestige. Character, Bob argued, wasn't found in a barber's chair. It was found in how a man treated those who were different from him. The weight of the moment was interrupted by the arrival of David Chen, the president of the Recording Academy. Chen took in the scene with immediate horror. When Morrison tried to justify his actions as enforcing grooming standards, Chen shut him down with icy precision. He informed the guard that he had just committed a blatant civil rights violation in front of dozens of witnesses. Chen apologized profusely to Bob, but Marley looked at the situation with a sense of profound grief. He noted that the moment was a lesson for everyone regarding the vast distance between being well-dressed and being well-intentioned. The fallout was instantaneous. Chen fired Morrison on the spot, ordering security to remove him while promising a formal public apology from the hotel. But as Morrison turned to leave, Bob stopped him. The crowd expected a final rebuke, but they received something else. Bob asked the man about his own family, asking if he would turn his own child away for having a different appearance or unconventional ideas. The question shattered Morrison's defense. He admitted his own son was a long-haired rock fan and that he had been far too harsh on the boy. In a display of grace that stunned the onlookers, Bob reached out his hand. He offered forgiveness to the man who had just humiliated him. He told Morrison that mistakes are inevitable, but the true test of a man is what he does once he realizes he's been wrong. Morrison took the hand, his eyes filling with tears as he whispered an apology. This wasn't a calculated move for the cameras, it was the raw application of the philosophy Bob sang about every night. The crowd erupted in applause as the two men stood there, one a fallen gatekeeper, the other a king of a different kind of kingdom. When Bob finally took the stage inside the gala, he didn't use his time to gloat or vent his anger. He received a standing ovation that lasted minutes, but his speech was a call for introspection. He thanked the man at the door for reminding everyone how easy it is to judge a book by its cover. He spoke about how the same dreadlocks that Morrison feared were the same locks that had leaned over dying children and worked to build homes for the destitute. He challenged the room of elites to meet ignorance with education and prejudice with a quiet, unshakable love. The aftermath saw a permanent shift in the hotel's culture. While Morrison resigned despite being offered a second chance through diversity training, he left as a different man. He spent the following months repairing the fractured relationship with his son and eventually began volunteering at the very shelters he used to ignore. He later wrote to Bob, thanking him for the grace that had spared his family and his soul. Though Bob never wrote back, he kept the letter in his desk, a silent trophy of a battle won without a single punch thrown. Today, the Beverly Hills Hotel bears the marks of that night. They implemented rigorous inclusion policies, ensuring that no guest would ever again be judged by their cultural or religious expression. A plaque in the lobby serves as a permanent reminder that excellence is measured by character, not conformity. Each year, the hotel honors the memory of that confrontation by hosting the Bob Marley Open Door Initiative, serving the homeless and the marginalized in the very ballroom where Bob was almost denied entry. The man with the dreadlocks changed the rules of the house, proving that true power never needs to scream to be heard.